Arizona State has officially joined the Big 12 Conference, and our biggest question is, are they ready for it?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Do me a favor, if you have not yet hit the subscribe button on YouTube, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers before the season starts. We're at 841 as of today. We've already added like 60 followers just in the last month or so. So I know we can get to that number. And when we do, we'll find a way to celebrate together as a channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today we are going to be taking a look at the brand new Arizona State Sun Devils Conference. Of course, I am referring to the Big 12 Conference. And it's very exciting for Sun Devils athletics. Not just football, but basketball, baseball. It's going to have a lot of good times for the Sun Devils. And there's a lot of potential here to wake up the sleeping giant that the Sun Devils have been referred to as for years and years and years and years. I don't know if it dates back to longer than I've been alive. I'd be willing to bet it probably does. But here is a perfect place for you to wake up that sleeping giant. The recruiting is going to be better. The TV deals are going to be better. You're going to have better exposure this way. You're going to be able to travel all around the country. You'll get to Florida. You'll get to the Midwest. You'll get to Texas. There's a lot here for you to capitalize on. The competition is better in basketball and football. This is one of the best things to happen to Arizona State Sun Devils athletics in a long time. I would go as far as to say, and granted, I wasn't alive for this, so take it with a grain of salt. I think this is the best thing that's happened to Sun Devils athletics since they moved from the WAC to the Pac-10 at the time. This is a huge deal, and it's really good news for the program. And we're going to take a look at how it affects football, how it affects basketball, and whether or not they're ready for this change. So let's go ahead and start the conversation with football. And football is the heart and soul of Sun Devils athletics. It's been a couple of bad years. More often than not, this is a team that's 7-8 wins on an annual basis, sometimes better, and they go bowling pretty much every year. Here's your chance to get back into the swing of things. There is no shortage of big name teams on your schedule this year, and a lot of ranked teams. You're playing Utah, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. You have to travel to play Texas Tech. There's a lot of really good teams on your schedule this year. Here's a good opportunity to advertise yourself as one of the better schools. I've said before on this podcast, to me, there's like two tiers in the Big 12. There's the really good teams and there's the really bad teams. And then you have a couple of teams that are kind of in limbo. And it's like, where are you necessarily? Because I don't know that there's really this like middle tier of teams. I think it's really good teams and teams that are rebuilding or are in limbo. And Arizona State, if we're being honest and we're being fair, they are rebuilding, but they they are good enough to get back into bowl eligibility and to start competing in the conference sooner rather than later. Last year, they very, very, very easily could have been a 7-win team. And that's in year one under Keny Dillingham when it's a brand new group and this team just doesn't know how to finish games and win games yet. That's changing this year. You're bringing back a lot of talent from last year. You brought in talent both from your recruiting class and from your transfer class. It's year two under Keny Dillingham. You're bringing back most of your staff. The changes that you're making is at offensive coordinator. You're going from Bo Baldwin to Marcus Arroyo. And at the wide receiver coaching spot, you are going from Rashad Samples. That's his name. You're going from Rashad Samples to Hines Ward. And then technically along the defensive line, you have a change. You are moving on to not AJ Cooper. Who's our defensive lines coach? Of course, I can't remember who our defensive lines coach is. But you are making that change along the defensive line because it was Vince Amy last year, but Amy is still involved with the team. Darren Reynolds, that's who it is the new defensive line coach. You are making that change, but it's not a drastic change. So there's a lot of continuity that's coming back to the Sun Devils this year. You have lost three huge players. Jaden Rashada, Elijah Badger, BJ Green are gone. All entered the transfer portal. That's brutal. But you still have depth to be able to replace those players. And you have really good units like the running, the run game, the backfield, the offensive line looks good. The secondary looks good. You've got units that are going to be able to pull the weight if another unit is not able to not so much step up, but play to their level. Like if the passing game's not really there, you can just hand the ball off to 6 different running backs. If the pass rush is kind of rebuilding and taking some time to get there, well, you've got a secondary that's really talented and should be able to create some more coverage sacks for you. You've got a team that, sure, there's weaknesses, but you have really good points of strength as well. And the coaching continuity is also huge for this team. So I'm looking forward to football this year. And I anticipate that this is going to be a team that goes bowling. So at worst, a 6-6 football team prior to the postseason. They're going to have a lot of big games, a lot of tasks in front of them to prove that they are better than they were in year one and that they are ahead of the curve and they're ready to take that next step forward. But the Big 12 Conference has no shortage of very talented teams. Again, there's like 5 teams for me that are in their own tier with no particular order of Utah, Kansas, Kansas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State. You've also got Iowa State, who is really good. UCF, I'm not sure what to do with. They're a quality team. They got an upgrade at quarterback with KJ Jefferson. They could be solid. Houston is not good. Cincinnati is not good. Texas Tech is pretty darn solid. Baylor, I think they're still solid. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but it is a good conference overall. You're trying to figure out, are you in the upper half or the lower half? That's where we're going to hopefully see Arizona State take that step forward. And we'll talk a little more in detail about whether or not Arizona State is ready for that jump towards the end of the podcast. But the bottom line here is the move from the Big 12, or the move to the Big 12, should create more exposure for the Sun Devils. It should be able to help that recruiting take that leap forward. Keny Dillingham is a good recruiter. We've already seen during his time at Arizona State, they have pulled in, including Rashada, is it 4 or 5 4-stars? 5 4-stars, with Rashada being one of them. This year you had Jason Brown and Jaden Fortier. And then next year you have Adrian Wilson and AJ Aya. They are pulling in 4-star kids. They're pulling in very quality 3-star kids, and they're killing it in the transfer portal. The recruiting is taking off under Dillingham. It should be able to get even better with the exposure that you're going to be granted by going to Florida and by going to Texas. You're still going to be able to recruit Southern California really well. Things are looking up for the program. Things are also looking up for the basketball program as Bobby Hurley continues to recruit his you-know-what off. And it feels like as you get ready to go into what might be the best conference of college basketball in the country, hopefully you're ready to make that transition to a better team. We'll talk about it in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball and makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, but also concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You can save on exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event with their flash deals. You can try their zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time chooses the seats. You can take a look at their all-in pricing toggling feature that shows you the total with no surprise fees at checkout. One of my favorite parts is you get a seat view, get a panoramic view, and you know what to expect before you buy. Make sure that you like it. Their lowest price guarantee means that Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. And of course, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. And if you have not hit that subscribe button on YouTube, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 1,000 before the season starts. We still got a ways to go, but I know that we've made some insane progress over the last month. We can absolutely get there, and then we'll find a way to celebrate together as a channel. Back into our conversation, we're flipping over to the hardwood, to the court, and talking about some basketball. Arizona State is not a team that is well known for her basketball play. Arizona State has had seasons every once in a while where they are more than a quality team, but as of late, that's not really been the case. Bobby Hurley, his tenure has been very up and down. They've had some very good teams and they've had some very bad teams. This past year was we'll call it as it is. It was a bad team. They were a team that looked like they were trying to build chemistry with each other. And it makes sense because you were replacing 4 starters and you were replacing a lot of depth as well. You're coming off a year where you dominated the transfer portal and the stars aligned for you. And one of the questions I had last year going into the season was, can you capture lightning in a bottle twice? And they weren't able to do that. And it's not necessarily like this, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't do it thing. It was always going to be odds stacked against them. Trying to repeat success from acquiring players through the transfer portal who have never played together isn't easy. It ended up being the case. Now, Arizona State, once again, attacked the transfer portal this offseason. So we're going to be looking at another situation where it's like, can these guys very quickly come together and become a really good unit? And they've got some quality guys coming through the transfer portal. You've got a really good recruiting class, too. This is one of the top 10 recruiting classes in the nation. You landed 2 5-stars and 2 kids that are in the top 5 for best recruits in the history of the program. Number 1 recruit ever Jaden Quaintance, who's listed as a center. He's probably going to be playing more power forward. And then point guard / shooting guard, Joson Sainon, I believe, is the third highest recruit for ASU. They're both coming to the Sun Devils program, and they're joining a group that is returning Adam Miller and Sean Phillips. Brandon Gardner is coming in from USC. You've got Austin Nunez is returning. This is a good-looking group. And if everything clicks, you should be able to be much more competitive than they were last year. But like I said, this might be the best conference for college basketball in the country. In no particular order, you've got Houston, Kansas, Arizona. I know Iowa State has had a pretty solid program as well. Baylor is up there. Baylor's up there. Who else? Cincinnati, I'm pretty sure, has a decent little program. It's a really good conference, and it's especially top heavy with Houston, Kansas, Arizona. Those three alone make you one of the best conferences in college basketball. West Virginia, I know, has a pretty solid group as well. Baylor, like I mentioned, like this is a good conference for college basketball. Arizona State had a lot of work ahead of them to be able to establish themselves as one of the better teams in the conference. They're coming in as one of the worst, if we're just going to be totally transparent. This is not a team that should have very high expectations going into the year. But with that being said, they've got a high ceiling. You've got 2 5-star kids that are coming in. You've got several 4-star transfers or former 4-star recruits that are coming in through the portal. You've got key returners that are going to play big roles for you this year. You've got continuity with Bobby Hurley. He's going into his 10th year. This is a program that has had very good success before. 2 years ago, they went to the tournament. Like, you're not that far removed from being a good team. You've just had some really down years. Like with Bobby Hurley, it's all or nothing. You have 21 teams or you have teams that are under 500. It's just about getting to that point. But similar to football, this is a really good opportunity for you to advertise yourself to the rest of the country of like, hey, this is a team that's up and coming in the best conference for college basketball in the country. Bobby Hurley's a good recruiter. If ASU has a good year this year, maybe you can start pulling in some more 4-star kids on a consistent basis. Maybe you're able to pull in some more 5-star kids. 2 5-star kids in one class is unheard of for Sun Devils basketball. Doing that on an annual basis, that's very difficult to do for a lot of basketball programs. Arizona State feels almost impossible for it to happen twice. But if there ever was a chance to get that recruiting to the next level, it's going to the Big 12, especially if you can find a way to get some big marquee wins. If you can get that upset over Kansas or over Arizona, it's going to grab the attention of these recruits. It's going to advertise yourself to the country of like, hey, we should keep an eye out on this Arizona State basketball team. They've got a couple really good upsets. It gives you a better opportunity to go to the tournament as well. Because unlike in the Pac-12, where you had like 2, maybe 3 teams on an annual basis, the Big 12 has so many teams that people are going to pay attention to that conference more. And it's going to get the people who put the brackets together and everything to say, we should include Arizona State because they had some really quality wins this year. It's not like they beat Colorado and UCLA and USC and Cal. They could have big wins over Baylor, over any of the other big programs in there. You have those games on your schedule that are more important and have more weight to them compared to some of the wins that you would have gotten in the Pac-12. You get an upset or 2 or 3 in the Big 12, people will take notice. who knows? Maybe you can get ranked if everything just clicks for you. There's nothing but potential here for the Sun Devils basketball team. And while I wouldn't call them a boom or bust team, it feels like this could be a team that is north of 20 wins again, or they're going to be a couple of games over 500. I don't think this is a program that's going to have a losing record this year. I think the talent is just too good, but I've been wrong before. If everything clicks for this team, you could find yourself in the upper echelon here of the programs. Now, will you be in Arizona or Houston? No, not for a long time. It's going to take a while to get to that point. If there was ever a chance to get to that point, though, it was with the move to the Big 12. But again, our biggest question now is, are the Sun Devils ready to make the move from the Pac-12 to the Big 12? We're going to talk about that in a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit means that your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because of the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. One more time, wherever you get those shows, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And if you have not hit subscribe on YouTube yet, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button so we can get to 1,000 before the season starts. It's a long ways to go, but I know that the best fans in the world can absolutely get us there. Rounding out today's conversation and taking a look at the Big 12 as a whole, is Arizona State ready for the Big 12? Is the big question here. No pun intended. This is such a staggering change for the Sun Devils. You are going from a decent football conference to a deeper football conference, although I wouldn't even call it top heavy. I guess you could kind of get there. You just don't have one team that's like, oh my God, this is an elite team. If you did, it's Utah, but you've got really quality programs. In the Pac-12, it was top heavy. You had Oregon, you had Washington, and then it was a drop off. Now, Arizona and USC had quality years last year. Arizona won 10 games. USC definitely underachieved, but they're a program more often than not that's pretty good. The rest of the Pac-12, pretty forgettable though. And Utah. I forgot Utah was in the Pac-12. My goodness. So Utah, Oregon, Washington. That was the conference. Everyone else pretty forgettable. Going into the Big 12, you got your top 5 teams. You've got teams that are going to be competing to start getting into that top spot. And it is an open competition. Arizona State could get there sooner rather than later. They call it the sleeping giant here in Tempe for a reason. If everything finally culminates together, Sun Devils football can be as good as any other football program in the country. They're a huge, huge university. They're in a great spot to be in to bring these kids in. They have a ton of opportunities for any academics you're looking for. They've got plenty of good schooling. They've got plenty of good opportunities for you. There's obviously the scene that kids will enjoy for themselves with Mill Avenue right there. Downtown Phoenix is there. There's a lot to offer. And if everything is finally able to click, Arizona State could be able to take that step forward, and the Big 12 is their big opportunity. Is Sun Devils basketball ready for the Big 12? I think so. I do think that they are ready for it. They have a big task in front of them of trying to scrape together a winning season. There's a lot of really good teams that are on this schedule. You are not getting an easy path. You're going to have to fight, and you're going to have to fight hard. But I believe in this Sun Devils team. I believe in Keny Dillingham's vision to compete this year. And I'm really excited for this year. This is a season that could end up really, really being special for Sun Devils football. But we'll see. We'll get to that point. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But as far as, is the football program ready for the Big 12? Yes, I think so. Is the basketball program ready for the Big 12? That's a more interesting question, because there's a couple ways that you can argue. If you were to argue from a playing standpoint, no, Arizona State is not ready for the Big 12, and they're not close to being ready for the Big 12. They are going to the best conference in the country for college basketball with teams that are capable of competing for championships. They are that good. Arizona State is not that good, and they're not close either. Could they pull off upsets this year? Absolutely. Absolutely they could. Should we count on it? Probably not yet. Who knows? Let's wait until we get 10 games into the year and get a feel for whether or not these kids are really, really good or if they need some time to develop, which could definitely be the case. Last year was the case with all the transfers that came in, is you needed these guys to settle in. But if everything clicks, maybe it works out. But again, as far as right now, no, they're not ready for the Big 12. But recruiting, yeah, they are definitely ready for the Big 12. Bobby Hurley has always been a good recruiter. That's one of the things that has been his bread and butter at Arizona State, because he's brought in a ton of really good players during his time. It's not just Quentin Sensanon. It's Josh Christopher. It's Lou Dortz. It's Enoch Bache. He's brought in some of the best recruits that Sun Devils basketball has ever had. That's only going to get better now that you're advertising yourself in a bigger conference, in a more talented conference, especially if Arizona State is able to catch some fire this year. If they can go to the tournament this year, you're going to see that recruiting take a spike. And with recruiting taking a spike comes more talented players. More talented players leads to more wins. Everything starts to fall into place from there. But it is going to be an uphill battle. The Sun Devils are not ready for the Big 12 to compete this year. The Sun Devils could be ready, and I think they are ready to start recruiting with some of the best teams in the Big 12. They're right there already. They've had good recruiting classes. Now it's just a matter of putting it together on the floor, having the coaching be able to take a step forward. There's potential here for Arizona State. As far as other sports go, I'm not gonna lie and pretend to you or pretend that I know everything about other baseball teams or anything like that. But I do know that similar to football, basketball, you're going to be able to advertise yourself a little better. Maybe Sun Devils baseball can finally get back on track to competing for national championships again. Maybe some of the other programs are able to really benefit as well. The bottom line is the Big 12 is a great opportunity for Arizona State. We'll see how it all ends up panning out this year. I'm really excited for football. I'm hopeful for basketball. And me personally, I'm ready for the Big 12. Are you, as a fan, ready for the Big 12? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. You guys are the best. Guys, if you have not hit subscribe on YouTube yet, do me that solid and hit that subscribe button so we can get to 1,000 before the season starts. We'll find a way to celebrate together as a channel. We will also be back tomorrow. We missed yesterday's episode. I'm still sick. A whole month, I'm still sick. But we will be back tomorrow to make up for not having an episode on Thursday. So I'll see you guys there. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.